Hey, Amy,
Yeah, Juan.
give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amy Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amy Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, rate us, write us a review, help spread the word about the podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments, engage with us, get that notification. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. Amy, ¿cómo estás?
I'm alive and I'm here.
All right, so let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room. I know a lot of people have been like, what is going on? The Dodgers win the World Series. I would have thought,
And
we would.
crickets.
Exactly. We would have thought there was a celebration. Well, both Amy and we came down with something. I don't think it was COVID. What I think I had was my allergies have been going berserk these last 2 weeks. And it did not help that the Santa Anas came up the other day, and they are wreaking havoc. But before that, I had this post-nasal drip that just went into my chest. And any time I would try to talk, I would go into a coughing fit.
Did
And
you have a pain in your chest and you couldn't
I
breathe?
did not have a pain in my chest. It felt like someone had their foot on my chest, like my hand on my chest. So whenever I would try to talk, I would just go into a coughing fit. And lo and behold, it seems like Amy got the same thing. Now, mind you, Amy and I have not seen each other, so I did not, give it to her. I'm not the
And
contagion.
and I was masked up during the celebration. I'm usually masked up at games just because I don't like being sick. So however this crept in, I don't know, but same thing. We wanted to record, but it was like, are we gonna just devolve into coughing fits and then it's just gonna be mute, 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 mute. So
So if
we're
you
gonna
wanted to
attempt to make it through today.
we wanted to avoid an hour of cough talk, and so that's why we were like, look, let's just wait until, I may end up going into a coughing fit, because
Oh,
just as I felt like I was getting over it, these Santa Ana winds just came and just wreaked havoc on my allergies. But Amy, uh we started off the show with cough talk. First of all, again, I really appreciate your patience, guys. I also really appreciate you guys
we
not
didn't we didn't forget
bombarding us.
about you. Yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't forget about you at all. It's just been, okay, how do we pull this together without making it not a great experience for you guys to listen to?
Exactly. And I really do appreciate you guys not bombarding us and saying, "Hey, when's the next episode?" So what we're gonna do, because it's been over a week since we buried the lead here, the Dodgers won the World Series.
What?
The
No
Dodgers,
way!
exactly. The Dodgers are World Series champions. So what we're going to spend time on in this episode is we're going to look back at the World Series.
Some might even say we are the champions, my friend.
Yes, wow, well played. Very well. You may be under the weather, but that coat rack or that hat rack that you have there, it's still working.
Some days.
So we are going to look back at the World Series, but Amy and I also were there for the celebration. So I was on the streets covering the parade aspect. Amy was at the rally at Dodger Stadium. So we're going to discuss those aspects of it. So it's going to be fun times looking back. So Amy, let's start with the World Series.
And
So
hey, I do wanna preface this before we go into it too. When
sure.
this episode drops, share your favorite moments too, because it wasn't just like there's so many things that happened over the last week and a half. What your memories were when we won, or even going into that, who you were with, like, share that with us, because as we're all kind of segmented into our own lives, it's fun to be able to relive that with our community.
And I know that a lot of stuff has also happened since the Dodgers have won the World Series. We are going to discuss that in another episode. This episode is just going to focus on the World Series and the celebration that happened with the parade and
We'll get back to our regularly scheduled schedule on Monday.
Yeah, we'll get back on schedule here. But Amy, the Dodgers win in 5. They beat the Yankees of New York in New York. I have to say, I'm shocked. I know I picked my original pick was the Doyers in 6. And I will say this. I do feel that this series was a lot closer than people let on. I know because the Dodgers win in 5 that people thought the Dodgers dominated the Yankees. I don't see it that way. It seems to me, look, I'm happy the Dodgers won the World Series.
Here we go. Where's the big butt?
No,
Come on, Sir Mix-a-Lot.
interesting to me. I like them. It's interesting to me just because what I was getting at, look, I'm very happy they won the World Series. They spared me a lot of anxiety. I do feel it was a little anticlimactic because it ended in 5. But look,
We just can't make you happy.
why are you taking this as a negative? All I'm just saying is I was getting ready for a really long series between the Doyers and the Yankees, and we didn't get that. So I was surprised by that. What your thoughts?
Honestly, for me, because I was just taking it a game at a time, it was like to me, it was good baseball because we know some of the challenges that the Dodgers were dealing with, especially after that game 4 when, bullpen game, we go into game 5, and we're going to get into all of this stuff we thought we were going to get a little more length in game 5 and we didn't. And because the team was kind of eking it out, it was still just like, oh my God, thank God we won. Selfishly, while we were like midway through game 5, I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can go to the stadium on Saturday or on Friday. Can we please just pull it out tonight and win so that we know that we have the title in our favor? But I feel like they battled every game, but they came out on top, and I think it was a great series. There was only one game with an inflated number that you hate. And unfortunately, that wasn't in our favor, but I feel like it was good baseball.
The reason why I say it was anticlimactic to me. Let's start with probably the biggest moment of the whole series, and I almost feel like I know this wasn't the case, but it felt like to me that the series was over after this moment, and that was.
Whoa, are you fast forwarding to the end?
No, I'm just saying the Federico Grand Slam to win Game 1, and I want to get into this in terms of I saw a lot of comparisons. Joe Davis made the call, a lot of comparisons to the Kirk Gibson. I do want to get into that, but before we go into that, you were there. Now, I know there's going to be 6 million people by the end of the week, by the end of the month, who are going to say they were at Game 1 of the World Series. The same way I run into everybody who says
they were
there
at Kirk Gibson's
when
game.
Kirk Gibson hit the home run. I know everyone's going to sit there and say they
I got
were
receipts.
There.
I got tickets.
Exactly. I know for a fact that you were there for that. Walk me through that moment, what it was like in the stadium.
Before we walk through that, I just want to pay a little bit of homage to even just Fernando Valenzuela, because he was obviously in our thoughts throughout this whole series, but they had a pregame tribute for him before game 1 started. Julian Torres was there singing. As part of that, they had a video. Oral Hershiser and Steve Yeager went out, instead of throwing the honorary first pitch, they put the ball on the pitcher's mound, and we all had a moment of silence, except for the couple whistles. And I think there was even a grito, and, you can't have just a full moment of silence in the stadium. But it was a really beautiful moment before the game, because he wouldn't be there with us in person, obviously, but even just having all of those things for us to remember him. Did they do anything where you guys could see it if you were watching the game at home?
No, I mean, they might have. I didn't see it. I was at work, so then I came immediately once the game started. Well, no. Well, wait, no, that was a Friday. God, my calendar's completely off. Yeah.
Oh, I don't even know what day it is anymore.
Yeah, it was a Friday, so I was rushing off work to get there just in time for first pitch. But I'm glad you brought it up, Amy, because even before game day, when the news happened, there was a huge arrangement of flowers on Vin Scully Way right by the Dodger Stadium sign, going of just of in memory of Fernando. And honestly, that's what actually I know you guys all think I'm the Prince of Darkness and I'm just all negativity and now
He's got a soft spot.
but when Valenzuela when I heard the news that when I heard the news that Valenzuela had passed away, I said there's no way they're losing this series. There is absolutely no way. I was talking to my friend Alonzo about this. I am a firm believer in the baseball gods, and that's why I'm as miserable as I am. This is why I always feel like something horrible is going to happen because I just feel like the baseball gods play a factor in this. And we're going to talk about it because I think the baseball gods played a huge factor in game 5 because some of the stuff that happened in game 5 is just not explainable to me. And that's why I think it's baseball god shit. But when I heard that, I was just like, there's just no way they're going to be that cruel to Dodger fans. There's no way they're going to take Fernando and at the same time have the Dodgers lose to the Yankees. And Amy, to me, there was just, and I know some people don't subscribe to this stuff, but it was just too much cosmic stuff going on in the air because Fernando made his debut in 81. The Dodgers beat the Yankees in 81. And Fernando pitched in that World Series. It just, to me, there was just no
so
way.
many things that lined up. And that'll even come to fruition when we start talking about Freeman's Grand Slam. It was interesting because even just being in the stadium, you had people cheering, but it wasn't like that the last game where everybody was like really going for it, the one that we were at. Especially because as the game went on, it was kind of a pitcher's duel up until that, what was it, the 6th inning, I think. Then finally the Yankees scored and they scored twice. And it was just like, oh no.
And that was a shot that Giancarlo hit, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we had one run up to that point. So we were leading, but then they hit that 2-run shot and we were just, oh. So then they go back and forth and the feeling in the stadium was like, yeah, let's cheer, but also like, oh my God, what's happening? And then the last inning happened. They score first and when it happened, we all looked at each other. I think I sent you a text and I said, hold my beer because they.
Oh, okay. Thank you for reminding me of that. I'm okay. I am on the record. Amy called that. She called
I'm
it
sure I'm
before
not
it
the only one, but
she called it. I got the text message. I was watching the game with my wife. I got the hold my beer when they walked Mookie. Now, Amy, I will say this. I was thinking, a double or something like that. I was not thinking a first pitch grand slam. But I want to give you credit and make sure you get the Floridas that you deserve. You absolutely called that.
it was so like I've never heard the stadium louder. And you know me, I'm usually there by myself. So like we win and I'm like, yes. And it's like kind of looking around and everybody's celebrating with each other. There was a family next to me with like an older son. He had to have been at least 21. He was drinking. They're hugging each other. He looks at me, I look at him. Or it's kind of like that. We're strangers. Are we gonna? It's it's the World Series. So we end up hugging. Everybody's cheering. The cheering did not stop. We stayed after that game until they kicked us out. We actually some of our listeners were there. Philip and Jessica. They ended up coming down to my section. We're watching. Everybody's cheer. Like people are still cheering until like literally until they kick us out. And
nobody left early, right? Because the famous thing.
No, people were leaving early, and I remember turning to the people next to me, and I was like, "They're gonna regret it," like because that's that whole Kirk Gibson moment, and people did leave early.
So people did leave early because the thing about that always gets pointed out with the Gibson home run is you see all the brake lights out in the parking lot, and for me, I didn't see any of it here. The stadium still looked very full to me. But so I'm very surprised to say I really thought no one was going to leave.
Yeah, some people left. The kid next to me, it ended up that was his first game. I don't know if it was in a stadium or in our stadium. I think it was in a stadium. That was like his first baseball game ever, and it was just like, well, it's all downhill from here, kid. Like you just saw the first ever walk-off grand slam in a World Series. Like It was amazing because once he did it and he ran in and you saw everybody cheering, like we got to see everybody on the field. It was just like that's haha, that's baseball. But that
There
really
it is,
is.
ladies and gentlemen, at the 15-minute mark. For those of you drinking at home, take your first drink. There it is.
It's fine because I've been like rubbing off on you because you've been saying it in other aspects. So I'll take it.
Whatever.
I'll take it.
It's all subliminal because I am not aware that I'm saying it.
One of our listeners got homework and they had to go find it, and they did. I got the minute mark and everything. So
Wow.
it was not homework I gave, but just to come back with the grand slam, like what did it feel like when you saw it on TV?
I was in shock, to tell you the truth, because I felt like it escalated so quickly. It went from, because I mean there was 2 outs. It went from me thinking they're going to do it. They're going to come back. And then going, when Shohei got out on the first pitch, I'm just like, bro, take a pitch. I mean, they just brought in a new pitcher.
He flew out to left field and it was like, oh my God.
And I thought to myself, well, it's just not going to happen. Maybe this is like me convincing myself. Obviously, it's gonna, like, it's my favorite quote of Vince Scully, which is, in the history of the Dodgers, when has anything easy ever come to them, right?
Which I feel like that's like not only just fact, but like it explains so much. Like Freddie Freeman said after the game, it's the 10th inning. We're already in extra innings. It's 2 outs. It's, like it's everything that you would think would be happening like when you're a little kid playing, and he gets to be in that spot and hit the ball. And then when he just like held the bat for a second and then went, and he's like hobbled. It just, what a beautiful moment, especially at the synchronicities you're talking about. He hit it at 8:37. So did Kirk Gibson. So
I keep seeing different times on that. I mean, I know it was relatively close, but I had initially saw that it was hit at the same time. Then I saw another one that it was 2 minutes apart. But the thing, and that's the luxury of not being in the stadium, because if you're in the stadium, that ball's out, right?
mhm.
On TV, because there were times where I got fooled by swings and I'm thinking, oh no, and then I just see Teoscar just waiting for the ball, to catch it. But what gave it away was what is now being referred to as Federico's Statue of Liberty pose. When he did that, I was like, oh my gosh. And then they cut to the scene where the ball's out in the right field pavilion with all you can eat gordos. And I'm like, it's actually happening, so we started going crazy in the living room. So at that time, it really didn't hit me of the Gibson comparisons, Amy. But so after, like, I was cheering, I was screaming, so I really didn't hear Joe Davis's call when
I had
said,
to go back and listen to his because I had my radio in, so I heard. I think it was either Steven Nelson or whoever was in
Steven
the
Nelson sounding like a Boy Scout and like, oh my God.
It didn't matter because everybody was cheering so loud. I had both earbuds in. I couldn't hear anything on the radio. Like,
yeah, so I didn't have I didn't hear, I really, until I went back and on Twitter and you saw it all over social media, was the call. I will, here's about the comparison to Gibson, Amy. I still think the Gibson home run is a greater home run.
100%.
And the reason why is the Dodgers were huge underdogs in that series against the Oakland A's. And Gibson hit it against not just the best reliever in the series, the best reliever in all of Major League Baseball. And for him, and his home run was like, he was all arms. So for me,
well, it had to be.
Yeah. For me, I give the edge to Gibson, but still, that does not take anything away from the World Series MVP, Federico. And what Federico did in this World Series, I can't stress enough to people that if this was in the regular season, Federico would not be playing. He was supposed to be out 6 to 8 weeks with that injury. And what we saw in game 1 of that World Series was the beginning of the tear that he went on. And look, I get it. I don't have a problem with them giving the MVP World Series award to Federico, because I do feel offensively he carried the Dodgers in this series. But it's the pitching. I mean, especially what the bullpen did. Like, to me, those guys were the ones that deserve the World Series MVP, or to at least to share it with Federico, because they needed both of them, because without Federico, they don't score enough runs to win games,
Mhm.
and the bullpen did its job. But
I think that even going back to the Freddie thing, I don't think the two are necessarily comparable. Like, people want to compare them because they're great moments, but I think they're great moments on their own. We know that Kirk Gibson was injured. Like, we say Freddie's hobbled. Freddie was still in games playing. He went through a lot of work every day, a lot of pain just to be on that field. But Kirk Gibson wasn't even starting that game. Talk what you will about the media bolstering him, kind of like amping him up, and then what happened. I feel like they're two separate situations that are both amazing. And I know that people do want to compare them, and there are a lot of really good comparisons, but I think they also just really stand on their own for what they are. And Freddie's moment, for anybody who missed Kirk Gibson's or wasn't alive, or that just, they didn't have the luxury of the 10 million people who were all at that game. Like, I think for the people that got to watch this on television or got to be in the stadium, like, this is our moment. And it doesn't supersede Kirk's, but it's our moment now.
I agree 100% with what you said. Those two moments are separate moments. And both of them stand on their own, and they're both just amazing moments. But I do feel there are some, not only just similarities between the home run, but I do feel like there's similarities between that 1988 World Series. And I know I get a lot of flack for saying this, because you look at that 1988 team and you compare it to this team. There is no comparison. This team, the 2024 Dodgers team, is hands down far superior than that 1988 team. But for me, the similarities, they had to go through the Metropolitans to get to the World Series. But other similarities that I have is, I feel like that Kirk Gibson home run in Game 1 in 1988 pretty much ended the series. The A's never recovered from that, and the Dodgers won in 5 in that series. And if anybody asks you to mention moments of the next 4 games after Game 1 of 1988, I think people are be hard pressed to tell you what other great moments. Yes, in Game 2, Hershiser just came and dominated the A's, and he threw a shutout, right? But for me, that moment was so powerful that it almost ended the series right then and there. I kind of feel like that's what happened with Federico in the Grand Slam. Even though the next games were close and the Yankees came and just hammered the Dodgers in Game 4, I just felt after that Grand Slam, the Dodgers, like I said,
That was the nail in the coffin early on. And
yeah.
then you have all the other moments that kind of, that bolstered the series. Like, you had Ice Cube performing before Game 2, which was, honestly, I missed it. I didn't know, like, in the announcements that was going to happen. I think it was probably out there. I didn't read it.
So you
when
weren't in your seat when it
No,
happened?
no. I just mean I missed, like, the announcements that, like,
Okay.
some people knew he was going to be there, and I was already starting to not feel well. But when he came out of center field, it was just like, oh my God, the crowd was so hyped, and it was awesome. And I think that
Can
also
I ask
set
you
the
real
tone.
quick? Were there sound issues inside the stadium? Could you hear him clearly?
I don't remember feeling like there were any issues. Why?
I don't. I feel like there was kind of sound issues, at least on the feed we were watching, where I don't know. It just was not coming in. You couldn't hear him clearly.
Oh, I feel like, I don't know. I'll have to go back and listen to my video that I took, but I feel like we all heard it pretty clearly. So
That's the only reason why I was asking you if that was how it sounded in the stadium.
it
because
sounded amazing in the stadium.
because I look at some of the social media videos and it sounds much better on the social media than on the TV feed that I was watching it on. So
No, in the stadium, it sounded amazing. Like, even the edits that he made to the song and like he's saying some of the stuff and like looking at the Yankees dugout, like it would just, I feel like that on top of, what happened the night before, everybody's in the stadium. They're like, God, nothing's going to happen. Like, Freddie's grand slam last night. So like, you've already got people who are in the stadium who are already disappointed before the game starts. But then Ice Cube comes out, sets the tone, and then the game goes on. Like, obviously there was that little bit of like, oh my God, when Shohei got injured, stealing second base in the 7th inning. But as we saw, he played the rest of the series. We know he was playing injured, but he was still in there contributing as much as he could with, the tear that he had in his labrum.
Yeah, and look, hats off to Yamamoto, man. Yamamoto, both times that he pitched against the Yankees in Nueva York, pitched really, really well. And so
6 and a third in our stadium. Like
yeah.
that's amazing. I had another rally churro for us just to make sure, and again, it was stale. I don't know.
Wow,
Man, I gotta go buy it from one of the places and not like the vendors.
Yeah, you cannot. You can't eat the churros at Dodger Stadium. They're just not.
No, sometimes they're good. They just the last 2 times I took one for the team, man, because those were
Look, I feel every time I've had a churro there, and that's why I don't have them anymore, that they are stale. So
no.
That's why
Usually
I'd rather go to the
and my
churro.
best friend and whoa, wait, where?
Well, the Norgay has a churro place in Costa Mesa that are fantastic. But
we need a field trip. We're gonna need a baseball Shangri-La field trip for churros.
And even like if you go to the churro place in Placita Olvera, that place is like.
Isn't there's one in Commerce, I think, too, where me and my Theo will go get like the boxes. Oh my God.
Yeah, no, I feel like the churro game at Dodger Stadium is not strong.
If you get it from one of the not the restaurants, but one of the stands, they're usually better because me and my best friend will get them pretty frequently. These are probably the worst 2 I've had, but hey, if that's what it took to help bolster this team, I will do what I have to.
Hey, you do what you need to do.
We did get the gold Ohtani for the show.
Oh, that's right. And when did you get the gold Ohtani?
Game 2.
In game 2 of the World Series, correct?
Yes. I believe it was Siamese Vodka was like, hey, it was supposed to be a good omen. And I was like, it was. Shohei didn't break anything. He just tore his labrum.
How did you get the gold Ohtani again?
Being a season ticket holder. It was one of
I love gold.
I love everything gold. It's just it was our membership gift this year.
Look, and then they go to New York up 2-0, and then Walker Buehler pitches the game that he pitched, and
5 innings.
So you had 3 games in a row where you had Flaherty, you had Yamamoto, and you had Buehler shut down the Yankees offense. And Amy, that was my concern going into the series. I mean, everybody else, if you read all the writers in The Athletic, the Yankees had the advantage with starting pitching. And in those first 3 games,
you had their better people. You had Garrett Cole, you had Rodon, you had Schmidt, and then they brought in Luis Gil. I don't know. I haven't looked up his numbers, but
yeah, I mean the thing is that game 4. Look, we've talked about it. I had problems with it, but it worked for the Dodgers, and that was a lot of people felt the Dodgers punted game 4, and this is where I bring in the baseball god stuff. That really worried me. But this is a strategy that has worked for the Dodgers through
punted, like purposefully lost the game.
Well, because he didn't use any of his high leverage relievers in that game. And in my mentality was like, you have to try to win every game because I feel like that can come back and bite you in the ass. That's baseball god stuff where you can.
Yeah, but who do you play on short rest where we've already seen how Kershaw's had to wear that in previous years? I feel like if you think maybe because Kasperius had a couple good innings and Knack has been hit or miss, like you try it because it's kind of like being at the plate. It's a 3-0 count. I can burn at least one pitch. Do you want to do it? No. But if that also gets everybody one extra day of rest, Flaherty, Buehler, your bullpen, like depending on how many people you have to use, I don't think it was a horrible decision. You don't want to ever lose the game. Yes, it would have been nice to sweep, but what are the odds like that those guys were rested enough to take game 4, especially with them being the Yankees being pissed off?
Well, I mean, look, in the end, it worked. And I would have been very interested to see if Daniel Hudson could have gotten out of that inning without giving up the grand slam. I was curious to see if he would have done that, and if the game was close, if Roberts would have used his high leverage relievers in that game to try to win that game and end it in 4 and sweep.
Well, and I think
Uh,
that's the mental gymnastics he has to do in these cases, but because we can't go back and do that, like, he had to play it where it was. Hudson gave up the home run, and now you've gotta live with it. To me, because it was a do or die game with the Yankees, like, yeah, do what you have to get to the next game. This game's probably not gonna work out, and yeah, we did end up giving up more runs in the later innings, but we bought some people an extra day of rest to be able to come back in that game 5. And, as we saw, there were some things that happened in that game where we could have potentially lost that one too, but everything turned around for us in the 5th inning.
and again, Amy, that's why I say it was baseball god stuff. It was baseball god stuff that
Flaherty
happened.
only went an inning and a third, and he gave it his everything. Nobody ever wants to come out and also give up 4 runs in, game 5 where you're like, "Hey, let's just close the door on it." So, that can't have felt good, but the bullpen, those dogs came in and, man, they finished it.
Look, Amy, I'm not going to lie to you. After they lost Game 4, and they in the fashion that they lost it, and it might have had to do with the fact that I had watched the night before. I had watched the Netflix documentary, The Comeback, which was about the Red Sox coming back down 3-0
Why
to
did you
beat
do
the
that to
Yankees.
yourself?
You know what? My wife was like, "Hey, do you know this is on Netflix?" And I was like, there was nothing to watch, so I was like, "Yeah, let's go ahead and let's watch it." So I'm watching
Oh,
it.
man, I was watching true crime.
So yeah,
Wendy should have come over and hung out with me.
that was my true crime. So I'm watching this and I'm realizing, oh my gosh, it's the 20th anniversary of this, and how are the Yankees going to exercise this? Right? Dave Roberts was a part of that 2004 Red Sox team that came. I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening because look, for me, after they won that game 4, things were lining up for the Yankees because they had Garrett Cole. And Garrett Cole pitched, I think he pitched really well in game 1.
108. He did 108 pitches in game 5.
And I think he pitched really well in game 5. It was the baseball god stuff that did him in. But let me see if Garrett Cole, if that all that crazy shit in the 5th inning doesn't happen and the Yankees win that game and they force a game 6 coming back to LA, you weren't going to get nervous at that point?
I mean, that goes back to, like, there's nothing I could do. The only reason I was nervous about them coming back was I was just starting to not feel good, like, really good, and I didn't wanna have to go, like, sit in the stadium and try to feel good and rock my mask. But, we're also skipping over that game 4 before we jump fully into game 5. That home run, or not the home run, but the robbery of Mookie Betts and the
Oh,
fan
that's right.
interference in that leadoff, just Gleyber Torres hitting that, and the second time he's got fan interference in this series, right? Like, poor guy. Mookie does this stellar catch in the stands in right field, and then both of those guys who are guarding the wall decide that they're gonna take that ball out of his glove. And I feel like that, like, I thought the Dodgers would use that as motivation to, like, kind of bolster up in that game, but I feel like it kind of deflated a little bit of the energy too.
Is that baseball god stuff what happened there?
No, that's just stupid fan stuff. Like,
I'm wondering in my mind if what happened in game 4 with those two fans, if the baseball gods did not get back at those fans by doing what they did to the Yankees in game 5.
but I don't think the Yankees should have to wear that because of 2 stupid fans. So that's where, like, to me, that's not baseball god stuff. Like, I feel like those fans were punished. They didn't get to come back. I believe it was a kid.
But you know what? And that was such bullshit, Amy, because the Yankees were going to let them
No,
come
they
back for game
were
5. It
until they got
wasn't
pressure, and then they changed
exactly.
it. And to
It was
me,
the reaction after all the media reaction that morning, because people were like, how are you going to reward these guys
Well,
for what they
and
did to
part of the
Mookie?
media had been rewarding them. Those guys were all over. Some of the media were giving them not to me it's it was trying to think of how to like I don't approve of how they behaved, and the fact that it was premeditated on their part, that they're ready to do that at any point, and the way that they held Mookie. I know that Mookie is a class act, and in his presser after the game, he wanted to just turn the page and look to the next game, and that was, I mean, that's really all he can do, because they're just looking for a soundbite to like get that information out of him. But what those guys did, like the way they grabbed his wrist, they are lucky that they didn't do damage to him. And I know that everybody has been saying that. To me, it's just you can't have fans like that in the stadium that are endangering players. Like it's not okay. And the fact that, you know, they're season ticket holders, that's something that I feel like the Yankees need to take into consideration.
Well, I it was so egregious. It was
Mhm.
just so egregious, and you're
And that's
right.
not in good fun. That's not good fun. That's the
I'm
kind of stuff I don't like in baseball. There's, like, different types of fans. I don't like that stuff.
I mean, it was just so egregious. It reminded me of when A-Rod kung fu chopped, I forget if it was in the World Series or in the playoffs against what team. Do you remember this play?
Mm-mm.
A-Rod was running towards first, and they threw the ball, and he tried knocking the ball literally out of the player's hand, out of his glove with a karate chop. I'll send you the video
Okay.
later on. I forget who it was. I don't know if it was a World Series, but it reminded of me of that because it was so egregious. But they were going to let them. Yes, they escorted them out right after it. The umpire was right on top of the call. Umpire made the right call. But the guy, Jesse Rogers of ESPN,
Mhm.
interviewed those fans at 2 o'clock in the morning, and the next morning wrote a story about them. And that story being written is what caused all the hoopla that made the Yankees say, all right, you guys can't come back. Because if Jesse Rogers doesn't write that story, Amy, they let those fans back in. So to me, that organization did not think it was a big deal.
No.
And and
Well, and there were people saying stuff about the story in and of itself, and how it was phrased was, a little bit more glowing towards the fans, and not as there were many stories that were written, and not all of them were, like, eh, knocking down the behavior, I should say.
and and
So
and let's be fair, there's stupid fans at every stadium.
oh, 100%. That like I don't hold this against Yankees fans, and I think that's the distinction that we do need to make, and be very clear about, because I feel like this is what people do. They generalize, and they're like, "Well, all Yankees fans are all Dodgers fans." No, these particular fans, this was not okay behavior, and that does not represent the whole, because no fan base wants to be represented by a minority of people who are doing bad behavior.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine if Mookie did end up getting hurt, from that situation? Like, I don't know. I don't even know how you handle that. I really don't, because the damage would have already been done. I mean,
Mhm.
what are you gonna do? You
Well,
know?
and this is where, like, we are fans, and, you know, we are there to watch the game, but, like, when you get involved in that way, like, any fan interference, like that, there's some that's, like, inadvertent, like, you go to catch the ball, you don't think about it. Um, but, like, some of this stuff, this goes beyond the fun of the game, being a fan. I don't wanna say it's malicious, but it's like, you are literally interfering with the game, and the play of the game, and the outcomes. And, like, it sucks that it was Gleyber Torres that it happened to both times, in Dodger Stadium and Yankee Stadium, because it
It was just like, I don't have a problem with them going for the ball. It was holding Mookie's arm down and then going into the glove and opening up the
well, and
glove
the other
to
guy
rip the.
holding the second guy grabbed his left arm,
Yeah,
and
that's why I said it was egregious. It was just it was too much. Is there anything else you want to cover from the first 4 games before we talk about that 5th inning in Game 5?
Just that Freddie homered in all 4 of those games, and you would see the fans with signs at Yankee Stadium like, please make it stop.
Exactly.
And he had that record. I think at that point he had what was it? Six home
straight.
runs in the postseason, like the 6-game streak, and 4 of those were in the first 4 World Series games. So good for him.
What it was is it was 6. He had homered in 6 straight World Series games. So going back to when he was on the Bravos,
Got it.
when the Bravos beat the Astros,
I was like, wait, where are the other 2? Are the other 2 coming from the postseason? Where are we
he
going? Okay.
he homered in the last 2 games of that World Series, and then he homered in the first 4 games of this World Series. Look,
Thank you for saving me from a base running blunder.
Federico was he was amazing in this series. I mean, and for me, I know Dave Vassay gives Federico a lot of credit. I mean, that's got to be for him to do what he did. I think has to motivate your teammates. If you look, and I think that's part of the reason why Shohei played with a torn labrum,
and he would be running around the bases, like holding the side of his jersey, just so that he didn't put that arm in play.
And I know this is going to piss you off, Amy, but shocker once again. So what were we told? He just it came out of his joint, and they pulled a lethal weapon with Mel Gibson, Martin Rigg.
Why would they say it during the series though and give up that advantage? Like my best friend said, he's there to throw people off offensively while Mookie and Freddie are behind him.
I totally get it. But
you take it so personally. Don't get so emotional.
You know why I take it personally? Because when it turns out that he has surgery to repair a tear, this is what makes me go. I'm like, that dude played with a tear.
What does it matter? He still played.
I know, but for me, it makes it even more amazing that he was even willing to stand in the batter's box and swing at pitches. If I was Shohei, I would have not swung at any pitch.
You would have pulled a Miguel Vargas in spring training?
Yeah, I would have pulled a Miguel Vargas in spring training, and I guarantee you, Amy, he would have gotten on base probably half the time.
100%. 100%.
I would have said, don't swing. And afterwards, when you tell me, oh, he had a tear, I was like, of course he didn't swing because the dude had a tear, But when you say, oh, it's a lethal weapon injury, and all you have to do is just run up against the wall and pop your shoulder back into place, you think, oh, okay, because he was swinging at some pitches and his swing looked really bad, right? And you're just sitting there going, oh, well, that shoulder's bothering him.
Well, and where you say, oh, go ahead. No, for you. No, go for you. For you.
So I'm sitting there going, it's a tear. Like, of course he's gonna he must have been on so many painkillers, just to go out there. I don't blame him for doing this as he's running around the base pads. I'm surprised he wasn't crying as he was running around the base pads.
Well, and for you say, oh, I'm going to be pissed off when you say something like that. And for me, I'm just like, I don't know the whole story. So I'm going to withhold judgment and just enjoy the game while it's being played. And, hopefully he does well. If he doesn't, like this is his first postseason and he's contributing where he can. Cause there were some times where he did get on base and he did help out. So,
and like I said, I totally get the strategy aspect of Amy. I'm not, all I'm trying to say is that I'm not surprised that once the series is over, it came out to be worse than what it was because this is what we've known all season long from these guys. That's why, and we're going to save this for another episode when we talk about Dodgers offseason moves. I'm fully prepared to hear that Tyler Glasnow is going to need surgery. Now the only thing that's giving me pause is if he did need surgery, I would assume he would already had it now because Kershaw's already had his surgery.
And he may have, and we don't know.
That's true. It's just one of those things. That was my only point. My only point was I'm not surprised that they came out and said, oh, you know what? Shohei was playing with a tear. Of course he was. Of course he was playing.
These guys are badasses. Like they all of them, everybody down from the offensive, like the hitting and just putting everything out on the field to the bullpen to even the starting pitchers. They like those first 3 games, 5 1/3 inning for Flaherty, Yamamoto 6 1/3, Buehler 5 innings. And the bullpen maybe didn't perform like we would have wanted, but they still went out there and they 8 innings when we needed them to, especially in that throwaway game in game 4. And then Flaherty came out in game 5. Like I said, we got that 1 1/3 inning. He gave up a bunch of runs. You know, there were a lot of people who were already writing off that game. And this is where, for me, I'm just like, let's see what happens, because baseball's about to happen. They're either going to win or they're going to lose, but it's not over till the last out. And look what happened in that 5th inning. So it reminded me of that 88 series where they always harken back to, we had that scouting reporter, that, the report on Eckersley and, what we needed to do in this situation. And it's starting to come out. I've heard from John Boy, not personally on social media, but you've also heard Joe Kelly say they had the scouting report saying all they had to do was put the ball in play, and then the Yankees would do the work themselves to help the Dodgers out, basically, because they were scuffling on the field. And that's essentially what it boiled down to in the 5th inning. We didn't see a lot of home runs in that game. That was all small ball. And it paid off.
I want to give Dave Denholm credit. Dave Denholm is the play-by-play announcer for LAFC. So everyone's like, well, Juan, why are you giving credit to a football play-by-play announcer? Well, Dave Denholm.
Why are you?
Dave Denholm is also a huge Cleveland Guardians fan. So he was watching every game of that ALCS. And before the World Series started, Dave Denholm said, the Dodgers are going to win, and I wouldn't be surprised if they swept the Yankees. And this is what Dave Denholm said. Dave Denholm said the Dodgers are a great team. The Yankees are a really good team. The difference is the Yankees are really bad defensively, and the Yankees are really bad on the base pads. And Amy, that's what happened in Game 5 of that World Series. Like I said, Garrett Cole, to me, pitched, I mean, he almost got out of that 5th inning. For him to then pitch 2 more innings after what happened in that 5th inning.
And they weren't like, they were pretty much shutout innings too. Like, we didn't score
Those
again
were
until
all
he came out of
unearned.
the game. Yeah.
The 5 runs were all unearned. I mean, the intestinal fortitude that Garrett Cole showed in that, it was just really impressive. But Amy, I understand, like I said, Dave Denholm. I understand the scouting report, and I know Joe Kelly went scorched earth on the Yankees. I don't think the Yankees are going to be signing Joe Kelly this offseason. Mariachi Joe is a free agent.
Well, hopefully he's still ours. We get him back.
But Amy, please, and this is why I'm saying, I know you don't. I think you're accurate in this. You're making a very good. What happens on the field is different than what happens off the field. But what those fans did in Game 4, I don't know if that's karma, because I just don't understand what you saw in Game 5, a ball that was hit right to Aaron Judge, and he
took his eye off the ball. He was watching the runner in the infield. You can see it happen, and that split second of him watching Kike run.
The play at third, when Gleiber was making the throw to third, that one I understand a little bit, because I feel he just rushed it. That might have been panic because, he wanted to get the runner out. But Garrett Cole not covering first, and it looks, when you look at the replay, I don't think that Rizzo was that far from the bag.
And I think that's where the miscommunication was. He looked over. He thought Rizzo had got it. To me, you still run over, though. Like,
exactly. You still run over, but it does make me just wonder what Rizzo was thinking, why he didn't automatically. Because if you see that video, Mookie doesn't start running hard until he sees that Rizzo's not moving. And then he books it, and then it's a foot race.
John Boy did a breakdown on it and like compared it to other games where they've had those plays, and like kind of justified it. Like, well, this is why he wouldn't, because in this situation, Rizzo handled it. And in this situation, Cole went in and covered. I mean, it's you can break it down. You can show other games and other like muscle memory plays of how you would do it. In this case, it's just a visual miscue. He thought he had it. He didn't have it as well as he could have, and Cole wasn't there covering the bag. And it's just a lesson of whether he has it or not, you still run over there. You still go meet at the first base bag. And then if he needs you as backup, maybe he trips, at least you're there.
So I went to a Halloween party, Amy, and I went dressed as a Dodger fan. So it was just an excuse for me to wear.
Shocking. So you weren't in costume.
So I was just wearing all my Dodger gear.
Okay.
And so, of course,
Wow.
I
Love
have
the
all
effort.
so I have all these people walking up to me, talking about the game because the Dodgers had just won the night before.
Well, and luckily you actually know about the game. You weren't just some rando dressing up as a Dodger fan.
Exactly. So I'm talking to these people, and a good majority of them told me they had turned the game off when the Dodgers were losing 5-0.
This is what I don't understand. Like, if you're fans of baseball, you watch till the last out. Even if you can't be in the stadium or you leave, like, I'm not going to judge anybody. Like, you go watch how you want to watch. But for me, because a game isn't over till the last out, if I leave early on a weeknight on a work day, I'm still listening to it in the car. Like, I don't know, how do you turn it off? Are these casuals? Are they like
they were
just like
telling on
watching
themselves.
postseason baseball? Or
I think they were telling on themselves, Amy. I think that was clear sign that they were casuals, but because they all said they started turning it back on once they tied it, right? So I had told them, I was like, look, I didn't turn it off. I was mentally preparing for game 6 and in my mind going, here it is.
wow.
Here it is. I can't believe this. I was like, please don't blow a 3-0 lead. Please don't blow a 3-0 lead. I can't have that in my life. I would not be able to handle it. I just would not to the Yankees. Don't blow a 3-0 lead. So what
You're doing that, and I'm literally dying on the couch that night. Like, I was dying, but I was like, I've got to score this game because I don't want to have to go back and do it later. And I'm like, just, oh my God. And then it got crazy in the 5th inning. I'm just like, Jesus, let me sit up
and
and
what's
do this.
fascinating, Amy, is after that 5th inning, the way they win the game is 2 sacrifice flies. Execution. What you're talking
It was all small ball. I could not have been prouder. If I could go dressed as small ball for Halloween, like, oh.
That's why, again, I do not have a problem with Federico winning the MVP. But what happened after that, when the Dodgers take the lead, is the reason why I feel like the bullpen or the pitching shares in this MVP
Oh
award.
my gosh,
because
we're about to talk about the Bullpen Dawgs, and my God, did they really rise to the challenge in that game 5?
and I will say this, Blake Trinan, what Blake Trinan did in game 5 to me is not going to be talked about enough because the Dodgers left that dude out there to die.
Mhm.
Like, I felt like his
They
arm
had
was going to fall
they had
off.
no one else.
Yeah.
Like, they literally, like, who do you even bring in? And you've got
Well,
Buehler,
they
who's
had Daniel
already
Hudson out there, and what you heard afterwards was that Daniel Hudson basically is injured. He was
Yeah.
pitching it. How
Mhm.
long he's been pitching injured, I don't know if we're clear,
Probably all season. I
but
mean, he's
he
been
was
having a
pitching
rough
it.
season or a rough last couple of months, and I think that's indicative of potentially being injured. And again, we're not privy to all that information, but it would line up.
So I want to give him credit for that, for pitching injured, and for really we heard this a lot about this team, is that these guys were really playing for each other. And again, I think Federico sets the example. When Federico is out there on one ankle, I think the rest of you have your moment when you look in the mirror and you go, if this guy's willing to go out there, he puts in all the work, all the treatment he's getting just to get on the field, I gotta at least do the same thing. I gotta give that same effort.
But it's also we've come this far. Like, if you're not gonna put your all in, like, do you want to be that person that's like, well, what if I had, what if I just given a little more? These guys basically like bled on the field. You had Flaherty coming out with an inning and a third. You had Banda coming in 2/3 of an inning, Brazier with 1, Kopech with 1. They're each just kind of picking each other up. Kopech pitches 1. Then you've got Vesia coming in to pitch 1. Gratterall comes in and pitches 2/3 of an inning. And then you've got Trinan doing 2 1/3 inning after he's already pitched his heart out in a lot of these games. And then waiting in the background is basically Buehler, waiting to bolster this team, like kind of going behind the scenes, like basically put me in, coach. And he does. And, he's on short rest. But like this is your shot. This is our last shot. Yes, we could go to a game 6 and 7, but like, or you could just finish it tonight. And it's like that whole like Mortal Kombat, like finish him. He comes in and gets all 3 of the batters out. And I'm not gonna lie, it was totally satisfying that Verdugo was the one that he struck out last, because with him mouthing off about our previous World Series and then what he had to say about, oh, well, that's just New York fans with the whole Mookie situation, like when he threw that ball, it was just like, yes.
Look, Walker Buehler is just, he's a different animal, man. He just, I was trying to explain to my wife that there are certain players that when the postseason comes, they're just different players. They just
PK,
respond.
Buehler.
They just respond to pressure in a completely different way. And there is a whole litany of examples that you can give. And please, when you guys hear this comment that I'm about to make, please don't look at it as in terms of talent that I'm comparing them. All I'm saying is when it comes to the playoffs, these guys raise their level. And like for me,
They
Buehler,
thrive on the pressure.
yeah, Buehler to me is in the category of like what Madison Bumgarner did when those Giants won those World Series, what Kurt Schilling did in the postseason. He was just a different pitcher in the postseason. And that's who Walker Buehler is. And, I said to my wife, I said, that dude literally has ice in his veins. Like when it comes, and he has said it himself in interviews that all he cares about is those moments. And maybe that's why no matter how many times we pick him to win the Cy Young in the regular season, the regular season doesn't seem to cut it for Walker.
Well,
He's
I
waiting
think
for the
that's unfair.
postseason.
I think that's unfair though, because not to you, I just mean in general, because this year he hadn't pitched in a while. So it did take time. Like the proof is in the pudding. Like he needed time to ramp up. And then once he kind of got his feet under him and, he thrives on pressure, like that's his motivation. We saw him shine in this postseason. And especially like for him to get the last out, especially after the year that he's had, like I was really happy for him. It was also a great moment. You saw Will Smith put that ball in his pocket. The authenticator ran out, made sure to get that ball authenticated for Walker. And like what a great moment, especially now looking back on 2020 with kind of how it's a little bit been tarnished with Urias. At least we have kind of a new moment with, Walker's stance when he throws it. He's got his arms out. Like we have a new moment at least that we can kind of look to. And it could not have happened to a guy who, he deserved it, basically. Like he put in the work.
It's interesting that you say that, Amy, because if you think about it, everything that Federico has gone through this year, I think it's a tribute to him that he was the dude.
Mhm.
He's the one that had the postseason. He had the World Series that he had. And, I think it was Jerry Hairston that had said this, is that when you put in the work and you do the stuff that you will get rewarded. I think Federico got rewarded. And I think you could probably say the same thing about Walker Buehler, in that
Mhm.
Walker Buehler put in the work. He battled it. He said it in an interview. He thought he was going to get released, and for him to pitch the way he pitched in the World Series and to come in that game 5, he told Roberts,
Mhm.
hey, and look, he made that really look easy. There
Mhm.
was no stress in that inning. Like he literally, if you looked at that inning, Amy, I don't think you would have thought he just pitched 2 days ago.
Right. It was 16 pitches, 10 for strikes. The first guy ground out to Max Muncy, and I don't know how you were feeling, but when you saw Max throw across the diamond to Freddie and you get that first out, and it was like, come on, two more. But just seeing the looks on their faces as they looked at each other, knowing, all right, we got 2 more outs to get. And then he strikes out Austin Wells, which, did you see that? He flipped him off.
I
Austin
keep
Wells.
seeing the video. I don't know if that
Oh,
is
no, I caught the still. I'll send it to you. He
so
flipped
it
him
is
off.
clear a middle finger?
Oh, yeah, he flipped him off.
Wow. Do they know each other?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it could have, for all we know, it could have been in good fun. They could have known each other. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. The fact he flipped him off. I'm not
I
going to
have
pretend that I
seen
know the context and that maybe it was, maybe it wasn't good fun because they knew each other and it's like, hey, F you.
I have seen that video. For me, I did not, do a Zapruder film on it and
Check your
back
phone.
and to the left, back and to the left. I
But
just watched the video, and for me, it was just too hard to tell.
and then he strikes out Verdugo. And again, just on 16 pitches.
Well, based on that picture, I wonder if Buehler, it looks like Buehler's looking at him. So I wonder if Buehler said something to him
Who knows? Who
because
knows?
Buehler is known to shoot off his mouth.
I'm gonna pretend that they're just buddies and it was more of like a F you, buddy. Like, F you, good job.
Look, it was a great moment. It was, looking back, they proved me wrong every single time. I'm so glad that they proved me wrong.
So are you gonna
Every
be a
single
positive fan going
No,
forward?
I'm still gonna be the same way. I'm still gonna be a miserable baseball fan who's just gonna sit here and everything is doom and gloom. But what'll probably happen is next year, Amy, I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna go, well, at least we won the World Series last year. What this does is it buys me time.
Okay.
It really buys me time. So I am gonna
So you'll
try.
be a little less cantankerous in your rocking chair.
Yes, I will be less, let's just say that it won't be full fist shaking
Oh
at
my.
Cloud.
Did you see some of those moments where Gratterall's like handing out dirt in the stadium to fans and
I
like
did see that. I
I
did.
just even their celebrations, you see the bullpen taking pictures and they're calling Kike over because he pitched in 4 games. And it's like
He's a
I
dog. He keeps referring to himself that he's a dog. I mean, Amy, the first. I mean, I think that NLDS was probably their toughest series. It went 5. You look at what the Metropolitans did, and I think you look back and you go, how did the Metropolitans even win 2 games against the Dodgers? And then to win the World Series in 5, this was just, I did not see this postseason run coming. I did not think the pitching was there, but
and
they did it.
it wasn't, but it was. Like you could tell all of those guys were gassed, but they pitched with their heart, like just their heart and soul. And you see like Yamamoto, for all the people that were saying stuff about Yoshinobu, and he has all of these things lined up on his resume, and now he's got a World Series in his first year too. Like
Yeah, and
and Shohei.
and look, things go a certain way. If Yankees find a way to win game 1, I mean, this is a very different series, and this is why I don't sit there and go, "Oh, well, the Dodgers dominated the Yankees because they won in 5." I just, in the end, like, I go back to what Dave Demholm said, is when you are a team that executes and you're playing a team, when you're this close, when you're this even, what's going to separate you are the little things, right? The unforced errors. And unfortunately, fortunately for the Dodgers, they were able to cash in on those Yankees unforced errors. And
And
that's what
in years past, they have not capitalized on those things well. And so
exactly.
kudos to them for going back, looking at the tape, and then improving, which is all anybody can really ask, especially when, there are some of those fans that will like, well, they did this and they did that and they effed that up. And it's like, okay, yeah, but they're going back. And we saw clearly this year that they learned from a lot of those mistakes in the past. I think it was it's OptaStats had kind of like a mirror fact that they posted. So the Dodgers are the first team in MLB postseason history to fall behind by 5 or more runs, erase that deficit, fall behind again, and yet still win the game. And they did this to clinch the World Series title. And then they released a stat for the Yankees And they're the only team in the MLB to blow a 5 or more run lead, allow 5 or more unearned runs, commit 3 or more errors, commit catcher's interference, commit a balk, all in the same game, whether it's the regular season or the postseason, since earned runs became an official stat in both leagues in 1913. So, like, just some amazing numbers there. Even, baseball always has a stat or a record, right?
Look, like I said, if I'm a Yankee fan, that one's a tough one to swallow, because I do feel like those games were pretty close, with the exception of Game 4. Before we segue to the parade and the rally at the stadium, I do want to give one man his flores, and it's a man that I've been critical of, and that's Dave Roberts. Going into this postseason, I had said my big concerns going into it were pitching, and whether the offense, the stars were going to show up. The unicorn did not have the World Series that I think he wanted, and yet the Dodgers still found a way. And then my
But he still made it to more World Series than he did with the Angels. So
wow, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think anybody saw that bus coming. But the other thing that I was worried about was, would they get outmanaged in the postseason? Because one of the continuing narratives in the last two postseasons were that things would speed up on the Dodgers. And I think what happens is it's very easy to manage when the game plan, everything on your game plan goes right. It's super easy to manage. When things go wrong, that's where your managerial skills get really tested, and that's when it seems that when things go wrong, things get sped up on the Dodgers. Well, a perfect example of things going wrong was that Game 5 when Flaherty just didn't have it,
or even Game 4 leading into it. Like, you have to know when to call it, and do you save up your reserves for the next game amidst all of the criticism he was getting on the internet for Game 4?
Yeah, and like I said, I was a little worried about what was happening in Game 4. I don't agree with the strategy, but it worked, and I just think Dave Roberts deserves his flowers. I think this is probably the best managerial job he's done in the postseason.
Some might say he was in a do or die game himself with this contract coming up at the end of the season.
Well, exactly. I mean, we're talking about, Amy, and we can talk about this more in the off season, but we are talking about a guy that if the Dodgers get eliminated by the show pods and then the NLDS, he might get fired. To now, the Dodgers win the World Series, and now people are talking about he's a surefire Hall of Famer. That's
which to me, I feel like that should have been the conversation all along, because managing isn't easy. And for all of the criticism that he gets, we have been in the postseason. What are we at? 12 years? 12 years now. 11 of those with pennants.
Yeah, but he wasn't there for all 12, though.
Right, but considering in his 9 years, I think that he's been managing, he's been able to pick up the torch and run with it. That's, I mean, he hasn't. I don't want to say he hasn't faltered, because there will be criticism on that. I mean, when I say he hasn't faltered, I mean, it's not like he came in and then they had a bum couple years while he got his feet wet, and then he kind of brought us back to the postseason. We had that continuation all along. I feel like he is a good manager, and he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. And I feel like, much like Kershaw is looking for that moment to finally silence people about the postseason, this season kind of solidified that for Dave Roberts.
Yeah, I think I mean, look, in the end, he has 4 pennants, 2 World Series, and the highest winning percentage. Yeah, it's like I said, I think the person who benefits the most from the Dodgers winning this World Series, I know the unicorn feels really good coming in his first year as a Dodger, signing that contract and delivering a World Series. But I think Dave Roberts is the one that benefits the most from the Dodgers winning the World Series. Any last words when we wrap up the World Series before we get into the parade and the rally?
Just one more stat from Sarah Langs that I thought was really cool. Of the 49 runs scored in the World Series, 30 of those were via the home run. So basically 61.2%. Like that's pretty interesting, especially knowing that we need the teams to play a little bit more small ball, but still the home run kind of won the day. So just interesting numbers to throw out.
Except for that game 5. Okay.
Yes.
So the parade. I'm surprised.
And the day before the parade was a little angsty, was it not?
Let me tell you. So I'm going to get into all of this. I was very surprised how quickly this parade came together. Okay, the Dodgers won on Wednesday. Friday, it was. I mean, I think it was moments after Wednesday's victory, didn't they? Or was it Thursday that they announced that the parade was going to be on Friday?
I'm not 100%.
So I want to talk about the drama that I went through in trying to get tickets for this rally. Okay, so I take my daughter, excuse me, to the postseason. So I took her to the NLDS. I took her to the NLCS. She wanted to go to the World Series. I looked at the tickets and I said, we are watching it from home because we pull. And so when I told her we weren't going to the World Series, she said, okay, but if they win, can we go to the parade? I said, yes, if they win, I will take you to the parade. So I don't know how many of you guys listening went through this. The Dodgers, drop out the information that at 12 o'clock, they are going to go ahead and make tickets available for the rally. And initially I thought to myself, the rally is going to be the place to be. As much as I've never been to a parade in my life, but it seems like the rally is what I would rather do. So sure enough, I log in at 11:55, Amy, to try to get these tickets, and I get immediately put into this virtual waiting room. Okay. 12 o'clock comes, nothing happens. It just keeps refreshing every 45 seconds. Now, I'm going to pull back the curtain. We're going to do a little Wizard of Oz action here. I had Amy on the hotline, and I had Amy log in.
I'm his tech supervisor.
That's right. So Amy logs in on, were you on your phone or your laptop?
Both.
Okay. So she's on her phone and her laptop. I'm on my phone and my laptop trying to log in. Now, Amy
this by the way, is friendship right here.
That's right. So Amy, by the way, already has tickets to the rally because Amy's a season ticket holder. So this just goes to show you what a just fabulous human being Amy is, that she is willing to help me on my quest to try to get tickets to this rally. So she's logged in on her laptop and her phone. I'm logged in on my laptop on my phone. It's refreshing 45 seconds. 30 minutes in. No, so Amy gets in before me. So Amy goes and tries to get tickets.
It was nice to be you for a few seconds.
Yes, so I gave Amy my login information. She goes in there. She tries to get tickets for me. Every time she puts it in a cart, they're unavailable.
So this was the challenge that we as season ticket holders, this was the challenge for everybody. So typically, for those of you who've bought tickets before, when you put some seats in your cart, usually you have a couple minutes to hold on to them, decide, do I want these? Do I not? Put them in your cart, and then another countdown continues. Because this was a first come, first serve basis, I'll use me and Juan as an example. If I logged on to 2 seats and he clicked on those same 2 seats, whichever one of us hit continue first got the seats. So if he did it faster than I did, then I go to hit continue and it says error, those seats aren't available anymore. And that was happening throughout the entire stadium. So if somebody else clicked on your tickets the minute you did, I hope you hit that continue button faster than they did.
So Amy and I are working as a team to try to get these tickets. So she's in there as me trying to get these tickets, and it's just not happening. 30 minutes later.
Well, and the site crashed on me. So
yes, the site crashed on Amy. 30 minutes later, I get let in. And it's the same thing is happening to me every time I put seats.
And you click on areas and it says it has seats, and you open it and there's no seats available. So you're wasting your time clicking on areas that look as if they have.
It was a complete shit show. It was a complete
I
shit
don't even know how I got tickets at this point. I am so grateful.
So basically an hour goes by and I just give up because there's no
We
longer any seats.
we
anywhere.
give up because we were double teaming at that point, and I think my head was killing me, and I was like, I cannot.
At that point, I said, the parade it is. We're going to the parade. So we go to the parade, which was an adventure in itself. I told my daughter, "You're not going to school. We're going to the parade." So
So her teacher knows again why she wasn't there.
he knows why and look, to be fair, her government teacher wasn't there either because there are reports that the government teacher was at the parade as well. So that Thursday, she tells her coach, "Hey, so I have a chance to go to the parade," and her coach said, "Absolutely, go to the parade. Don't worry about coming to practice on Friday." So the parade starts at 11, and I'm thinking to myself,
Oh, no.
I'm in Orange County. We're going to take the train in because I know there's going to be a lot of traffic.
Smart.
So I was like, look, we take the 8:30 train. We're there by 9:20. It'll give us plenty of time.
Oh, bless your precious heart. Bless you don't think people were out there at like 4 a.m?
Yeah, well, that's what I realized because as I woke up that
Oh,
Friday morning, my
Juan.
wife was watching the news and my wife says, "You guys are late. You should have already been there." And she's showing me all these people that are already on the streets.
I left my house at like I was trying to leave at 6:30, but I was not well. I left at 7 to get to Dodger Stadium. Like, you sweet, sweet summer child.
Yeah, and so let me tell you, so we get to the train station and the train is 20 minutes late.
Mhm.
So we don't get on the train until almost 9 o'clock. When I get on the train, Amy, the train is almost all full of Dodger fans.
Mhm.
I got on the train in Anaheim. This train was coming from Oceanside. So there's a lot of Dodger fans, I guess, in San Diego. So they all had the same idea. They all got on the train. By the time we got to Norwalk, the announcement was standing room only, and you had to come to the front of the train. So we end up getting there to Union Station, and they're telling us that we can get on the red line to take us to City Hall. And I told my daughter, I said, "We're not doing that. We're walking. It'll be fast. Look how many people are
Mhm.
here. It'll be faster if we walk." So we walked. And so we got to City Hall. Grand Park was already full. So
It looked like a sea of people on
at,
on Dodger Vision.
yeah, absolute sea of people. But she wanted to see the buses. So we kept going further up. We started heading towards Temple. We went through a planter. This poor planter just got demolished. All these plants are just like getting stepped on. My legs are all scratched up. I got the scars to show it. But we
Oh,
got
bless
pretty
you,
close.
battle-scarred one.
Exactly. We got pretty close to the sidewalk. So she was able, when the buses came, we were able to see Mookie. She's a big fan of Daddy Banda. So she was able to see her Daddy Banda. And so it was an experience. I will say this. If there is another parade.
How long did it like was it like they stopped in front of you and
No,
stayed for 10 minutes?
That's what I was going to say, Amy. It went way too fast. And that's why I said the next time there's a parade, I'm definitely doing the rally. I don't need to be among the sea of people here for literally it was like zoom. So I'm glad I did it. I can chalk it off the bucket list, but it seems to me, and I'm going to defer to you now.
You'll just be with us in the stadium next time.
I will defer to you now. It seems to me the place to be was at the rally, which is where you were. So,
Yes.
Amy?
So that is one of the benefits of being a season ticket holder is we get the pre-sales, which is how me and my best friend ended up getting in there. So had our tickets. We were on the field level, third base side. We had perfect seats to kind of see everything. So, stadium gates or parking gates open at 8:30, stadium gates 9 o'clock. You get to go in. The stadium had all the food vendors open. You've got the stands, the stores. Much like the World Series, there were lines like wrapped around I forgot my best friend wasn't at any of the World Series games. So she's like looking at like all the lines, like, oh my God. I'm like, oh, if you want to buy something, we need to stop at a stand. Those are faster. And it was just like, here's all the tips and tricks of how to get around the stadium that's full of people, because with the exception of them selling the top deck, that was the only section that they did not sell. That stadium was full. It was crammed with people.
It looked like the reserve levels by the foul pole were empty. They did do that for sight lines.
So people were there, so they did have TVs facing the pavilion, and I'm not sure if they did it on the sides. But so if you were sitting in the pavilion, even though you were seeing the back of the stage, you could at least see the front of it, and then everybody else could either look at Dodger Vision or look at the stage. So it could also have been those people decided to stay in the pavilion and watch as well, much like we see in some of the games where like sometimes the stadium doesn't look quite so full, and it's because people are in the pavilion or in the bars. So that could have factored in as well. But when we were able to watch all of the parade coverage, so that was one of the nice features. We could hear like all of the Sportsnet people commentating. So you have Oral Hershiser, all of the other guys up there giving their play-by-play of the parade. We're getting to see shots of it happening, but we're watching it from our seats. We're, eating a Dodger dog, just kind of hanging out. So in that respect, it was really nice because you were mobile. You still got to see the parade. And then once they arrived, like there were like 5 or 6, police helicopters close to the stadium because they were following the buses. The players all came in. They all gave their speeches, what I'm sure everybody's already seen, on Sportsnet LA at this point. But being able to be there, we're watching Ice Cube do his second performance and not even realizing that Dave Roberts was his hype man. Like I looked over at my best friend and I'm like, wow, his hype man's really like energized. And then we look up at Dodger Vision and we're like, oh my God, it's Dave Roberts. Like
I don't know about that Dave Roberts dance there where he had the water bottle and he was like
let
working
him
on
have,
Ice Cube.
it's not like he practiced it. Like, let the man have fun. Like being in the stadium, like, I'm not gonna lie. I was tearing up. I was there with my best friend. We were also there with Philip and Jessica, some of our listeners and their family. And like, there were just moments of the realization of we're all like, this is again, what I love about sports, like take out politics, religion, what you earn, all of that stuff. We're all there because we love this team. And just hearing their happiness, watching Walker jump on, Clayton Kershaw and Kike, Teoscar, Mookie all give their speeches, Freddie. And it was just that moment of like, wow, this team finally did it. Like they did what no other team before them could do. They did it in 2020, but this year they finally silenced everybody, like with the full season, being able to make it all the way through. And like, I totally like teared up just watching because like this is what we watch baseball for. Like this is the culmination of everything. And being in the stadium, I think was one of the best ways to do it. For me, I was also under the weather, so I was masked up, but I don't think I could have jogged the blocks that you did to go see the parade. So for me, it was like the best of both worlds, just getting to be stationary while that was happening.
I went way past my steps goal, by the way, on Friday.
Congratulations. Me too.
So what was your favorite speech from the rally?
Obviously Kike. Like he is such a character. I really hope that they do bring him back next year. But I mean, they were all good in their own way. Like there were a lot of people that were excited about Shohei, making his speech and speaking English. To me, I'm like, let him speak whatever language he's comfortable in. But he made a lot of people happy. Even seeing Teoscar tear up just with how happy he was to be a World Series champion coming to this team. I mean, especially coming off the year he had last year with the Mariners. So it was just really seeing the joy of all of them. But Kike was he hyped the crowd up. So.
Yeah, I was very surprised by how emotional Teoscar got. Kershaw's speech with him saying Dodger for life.
I think that shuts everybody up on Rangers Dodgers retirement. I think we know where he stands.
That surprised me. After these,
can you imagine just for 1 second if he had gone to the Rangers this year?
Oh, I know. That's very interesting. Yeah. Well, there was Buehler wearing the Hershiser again. This is the second time he wore the Hershiser jersey.
And Hershiser was wearing Buehler's jersey.
And look, I see the comparisons, and again, I will say I think Hershiser was, I think, more dominant in his 1988 run, but
Hmm.
Buehler was
Bueller earned
Hershiser
it.
like. He was
He,
Hershiser like, I
but
will
he
say.
wasn't like, yes, he is healthy now, but he was still building up. So I think with what we got out of him this year, I think it was astonishing. It was really great. Rojas getting Freddie out there. Even Freddie saying like, I may have had one leg, but like I had this whole team behind me. Like it just, you can see how much they treasure each other. Muncy, again, he's another one pumping up the crowd, making sure Honeywell gets his due.
Look, I will say this. I think the other probably winner of that ceremony, the rally and the parade, was whoever overserved the Dodgers, and in particular Jack Flaherty. I don't know if you saw the video that's going around of
Yeah.
Jack
Well,
Flaherty.
he had the tequila in his hand on the bus.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like it started. I don't think they stopped drinking since they won on Wednesday. I think it was just one continuous bender. I know that after the rally, they all went to Mookie Betts' house for a World Series party, and it seemed
Oh,
like
that's awesome.
that was a huge party. So, yeah, I think it was great. One of the things that while I was on the parade, there was a family that was standing next to me. They had two littles in a wagon, and I was talking to the father, and the father said, we were talking. It's been 36 years since there's been a parade for the Dodgers.
Mhm.
And what he said to me is like, we didn't go back in 88, and we felt like we should go now because who knows?
Mhm.
It might be another 36 years before this happens again. So, like I said, for me it was checking off a bucket list. I wish I was at the rally. I will make every effort to be at the next rally,
Oh,
the next time the Dodgers.
you're gonna be at the next one. Hands
So,
down. We got this.
so I want to end the show with this, Amy, because I know this has been a super fluffy episode. Um, and it's with your boy Kike. Uh,
I didn't even say anything about Houston.
exactly.
Mhm.
It's with your boy Kike. Because he went in hard on Fat Joe. So what I want to end the show with is this. I am now starting to feel a little bad about Fat Joe because I feel like Fat Joe really is like people are piling on Fat Joe. So not only from his performance of the Yankees, what Geek said about him at the
Ike's not
rally.
the only player who said stuff either. Like it
Do you feel bad for Fat Joe, or does Fat Joe deserve all of this?
I feel like he probably I don't want to speak for him, but like that's got to be hard when, the Yankees contact you and hey, we want you to perform. Like you probably don't think of the repercussions or like how that fits into the bigger scheme. Um it's kind of hard to go up against Ice Cube in LA. Is like I don't know.
I think I feel bad for him because I'm sure there were other people ahead of him, in particular a guy named Jay-Z. But if you're following the news and you
Yeah.
know what's happening, Jay-Z doesn't want to be seen in public right now. So that's I feel bad that Fat Joe is just really like people are just piling on the poor guy who was just out there trying to, pump up the crowd. But look, in the end, the Dodgers finally got a parade. They
Mhm.
got a fantastic rally to end a season that you look back at it, it was a roller coaster. And we'll probably dedicate a few
Oh,
episodes in the next couple of weeks looking back at this season. But it seemed like it was a really long season. But for it to end in this sprint in this postseason, I don't think you could have written it any better, Amy.
I feel like we're living in like a literal physics study where it's like it felt so long and drawn out, but at the same time, it felt so quick. Like this postseason was long, but it also like, how is it already over?
Right.
And from the time, even just from you and I, like having like a milestone, this is our first season covering the team on our show. And we just started February 2nd, and we're a little late on this episode, but be that as it may, like we were pretty consistent throughout the season. Like this was our flagship season, and I feel like we accomplished a lot. Eric Steven had a stat out there that from Seoul to New York, it was 224 days. It feels like 224 days. It feels like longer, but there are so many good things that happened this season, like ups, downs, just between spring training to now. Like all I can do when I think about it, even though I ran myself into the ground, that's partially why like I don't feel well. My body is just giving up. There are so many good memories. Like what a great season. Like you, Hillary, Philip, Jessica, all of the listeners that we got to meet at the stadium from the beginning of the season. I think it was Jose we got to meet like right when we first got there. Like we've
At
met,
Dodgers Best. At Dodgers Best.
yeah, so many people that we've gotten to just connect with, and like wow, what a great run.
And that being said, let's go ahead and address a few things. And that is now that it is the off season. Again, thank you very much for being patient with us in this video. This episode. But we are still planning on doing episodes in the off season. How many is all going to depend on Dodgers news. The next episode, we're definitely going to be talking about off-season moves. They're
And
already
free agency.
in free agency, so we're definitely going to go ahead and discuss that. And then, like I said, from there we're going to start getting ready for season 2. So I'm glad that you pointed it out, Amy. This was our first season. For those of you who discovered us along the way, thank you very much. For those of you that were with us from the beginning, thank you very much. Please continue to help spread the word. We talk baseball on this show, but we also talk about other things in baseball because in the end, I know that coming from the Prince of Darkness that this may not be accurate, but in the end, this show is really about the appreciation from baseball, and we do really would like to celebrate baseball, but sometimes there are some stories where I think we just need to be honest, and there really is no cause for celebration. But
especially with the world and everything that's going on, like this is my respite. This is my happy place, and I'm grateful that I have such an amazing co-host and friend that I get to talk baseball with, and we have all of you that check in with us, share your thoughts, share. We have some people that share some great memes. Even we've got some Rocky themed stuff that's been coming Juan's
that's
way.
right, Pablo is fantastic. He always gives us some great Stalloner's Club, and again, this is a show that is about baseball, but it is also an appreciation of Sylvester Stallone, whether Amy likes it or not, guys.
It's not just about Sylvester Stallone, but that's
We appreciate
nice.
Stallone on this
Okay.
show.
We've got Jose Ayala, who makes sure that we don't make any base running blunders, and we periodically scare David Wants a Taco with the sirens that happen on the main street outside of my studio. So it's a fun filled place for everybody.
Absolutely. So any last words before we wrap things up, Amy?
No, I'm so grateful for all of our listeners and for how far we've all come. And hey, we're World Series champs. Woo.
That's right. So that's going to do it for this episode. If you've been listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, rate us, write us a review, help spread the word about the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up, hit that notification button, leave us comments. What were your favorite moments of the postseason? If you were at the parade or if you were at the rally, what were your favorite moments there? And make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. She is Amy Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Say goodbye to the people, Amy.
Goodbye, people.